Assalamu alaikum. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله النبي الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is indeed a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and blessing of His beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that we are here today in this public event on such an important topic, which is in fact indeed need of a day. The topic which has to be presented in Quranic, in prophetic, or in Islamic perspective, so that the Muslims at large, or especially living in Australian society, are not left with any kind of ambiguity, misconception regarding the topic, which is to integrate or not to integrate. I would like to present, or first of all congratulate the organizers of this event, the ISRA Foundation, and the organizer, the head of this organization, for their services, for their effort they are rendering towards the community to develop the peaceful and peace-loving concept of Islam, so that the people feel at home and they start removing the differences and distinction from each other and bring the society back to the concept of love, humanity, peace, compassion, and tolerance. Before I enter into the topic, I would like to present the definition of three different models which are usually seen implemented partially or fully in the society in different parts of the world. First is the model of isolation. The second one is the model of assimilation. And the third one is the model of integration. When we talk about isolation, this is a process of shutting away or keeping apart from others, in which a person or minority or culture do not have the support of one another or from another group or nation. In this model, the organization, community, or a group of people, they remain isolated from the activities of the society. Nobody knows them, and they are not aware of what's happening in the society, what their obligations are, and what their responsibilities are, and what are the rights he can enjoy in the society. Then the second model is the model of assimilation, and it is also called model of annihilation. This model refers to a process by which an individual, minority group, or previously distinct cultural group adopt or merge or come into conformity and resemblance to the practices, customs, beliefs, and culture of another group. Or in short, I would say, a nation who loses its own identity and adopts the identity of other group living in any part of the society is known as the model of assimilation. Now comes the third model. The third model is the model of Islam. And this is the model of integration. So what exactly this model is, that integration leads towards a concept of multiculturalism. It leads towards the concept of multicultural society with multi-ethnic values. And it is a full and active participation of minority within a society with a guaranteed protection of their cultural identity as well as their religious identity. After going through a brief account of these definitions, I would, without any hesitation and if and but, I can confidently say that Islam has given us the model of integration. Islam not only defined it, but Islam in fact implemented it and gave the principles and demonstrated it in the form of the state of Medina, in the form of the constitution of Medina, which was formed, constituted, and developed and established by the Prophet of Islam after his arrival to the valley of Medina. Now, before entering into the concept of integration and application of this concept in Australian society, in European society, in modern society, I would like to take the example from the prophetic era. And I just want to quote that my PhD, my thesis was on that model. And my PhD was actually on the Constitution of Medina. And I developed it into 63 articles and articulated it into 63 articles. Then I derived different systems and Islamic principles out of the articles of the Constitution of Medina. And then I compared those constitutional principles with American, British, and European constitutional principles, and I gave the model to be implemented in today's time. And one of the model I established, one of the model I elaborated, I explicitly mentioned in that thesis was the model of integration which was given by the Prophet of Islam. Now, before the arrival of the Prophet of Islam in Medina, it was known as land of Yathrib. The land of Yathrib was in fact the land of evils, the land of illness, the land of bloodshed, the land of intertribal revenge and enmities, the land of sorrows, the land of agonies. That was the status of the valley of Yathrib before the arrival of the Prophet of Islam, the Prophet of peace. And among the settlers, residents, and natives of the land of Yathrib, there were three main Jews tribes were living and settled over there. There were Qainqa. There settled another Jew tribe called Banu Nadir and Banu Qurayza, and other Christian tribes were settled there. And Mushrik tribes were settled there. Those who had a religion, those who did not have any religion, they all were living in the valley of Yathrib, or in the surroundings of the valley of Yathrib, in the form of different tribes, in the form of different units, but nobody knew each other. It was like a small kingdom and units. They were living as a separated nation. They were ruled by their local elected kings and the head of the tribe. By that time, the reality of the valley of Yathrib was that they had their own independent rules. They had their own norms. They had a different cultures. They have different ethnic values. They have financial liabilities. They had their reciprocal enmities and financial burdens to be paid for each other. The ground reality of that time, that era, or that internal or external or political or social or economic situation within the valley of Yathrib, or before entering into or before becoming Medina, it was like an atmosphere of hostility over there. It was an atmosphere of enmity. Unending and continuous war was there between the tribes. And they in fact transferred those enmities to their next generation. Their fate was already decided by their elders. In that situation, the society of Yathrib was comprising of Jews, Christians, and Mushrikeen, and were totally unaware of the concept of civilization. There was a society which had no knowledge about multiculturalism. That was the society which had no knowledge about the multi-ethnic values. They did not know about the mutual rights and obligations. They had no awareness towards inter-tribal rights and duties. And they were not aware of inter-religious rights and intra-religious rights at all. There was the time they knew nothing about the mutual peace. They knew nothing about the tolerance. They knew nothing about the cooperation, respect, and togetherness. They were in dire need of a leader. That was the time they were desperately looking for a leader to come who could put them together, who can put all the scattered unit of the society, who can put the scattered components of the society together under the umbrella of peace, love, humanity, cooperation, and tolerance. They were looking for someone, for a leader who could bind them together with the bond of mutual interest, with the bond of mutual sanctity, with the bond of mutual stability, and with the bond of the sense of sustenance and survival of their tribes and their pride. So what happened? There was the time when the Prophet of Islam was invited by a few of the tribal people from the tribe of Ansar. They met Prophet of Islam in the valley of Aqaba and gave the oath of allegiance to the Prophet of Islam. So once the promise was made, the reciprocal promise was made, the contract was made, so Holy Prophet ﷺ put his blessed foot in the land of valley of Yathrib and converted it from the Yathrib to Medina. So because of the arrival of the Prophet of Islam, the Yathrib converted into Medina. It was Yathrib, the land of illness, the land of sorrow, that converted into Medina, which originates from the word Mudun, and that means civilization. The land of sorrow became the land of happiness. The land of sorrow became the land of prosperity. The land of illness became the land of generosity and blessings. So there is the beginning of new civilization. That was the beginning of a new culturalism. That was a new society which was coming into existence. That was the emergence of newly born age, a newly born city or a state of Medina. The Prophet of Islam, through his independent treaties and pacts and contracts, he entered into with different tribes of Medina. He had a contract with the Jews of Medina. He had a contract with Qanuqa separately. He had a contract with Bani Nadir separately. He had a contract with Bani Qurayza separately. And he dealt everybody separately. That was the political philosophy of Rasulullah. He did not think that I am isolated from the society. He didn't think for a second that I am the Prophet of Allah. Who am I to enter into the contract with Jews? No. As long as that was the matter of the sanctity, protection, dignity, and safety and security of state of Medina, he called everybody and made them enter into the pact of Medina. That was the multicultural society. That was the multi-geographical society. That was the concept of ummah and nationhood given by the Prophet of Islam. And then Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, gave the concept of multiculturalism, and for the first time gave the model of integration to that society of Medina. Now I would like to elaborate this concept of integration in the light of the few of the articles of the Constitution of Medina. The first article, which was written by the Prophet of Islam, drafted by the Prophet of Islam, was giving a great message of the integration. Where the Prophet ﷺ said, هذا كتاب من محمد النبي رسول الله بين المؤمنين والمسلمين من قريش وأهل يثرب ومن تبعهم فلحق بهم وجاهد معهم أنهم أمة واحدة من دون الناس. This is what the Prophet of Allah declared and pronounced in his very first article of the Constitution of Medina. Then unanimously Holy Prophet ﷺ was declared as the head of the state of Medina. Everybody accepted him as a unanimously elected head of the state of Medina. It was not because he was a prophet of Allah. No, he was the one who unanimously put everybody together under the umbrella of unity, discipline, love, peace, and internal security of the state of Medina. And then in this first article, in this document, it said, this is the constitutional document which is promulgated by the Muhammad, peace be upon him. Agreed? Who are the community of the Medina? So this is what the article is stating. Agreed between the Prophet and agreed between the believers and the Muslim of Quraysh and the people of Yathrib. And those who follow them, and those who join with them, and those who will strive along with them, they are a single nation. They will be declared from today Ummah. Here lies the concept of Ummah. Here it began, it originated, or it emerged from this very first article which was drafted by the Prophet of Islam. And then he said, then he has emerged to then that has the Ummah that has emerged to the exclusion of other people. Now we move on to the other article. Another important article of the Constitution of Medina. It says, and this is the pronouncement of the actual model of integration which was implemented by the Prophet of Islam. Then he said in that article, Inna Yahuda Bani Auf Ummatun Ma'al Mu'min. And it has already been stated with different chain of authority that Ummatun Ma'al Mu'minin, and it also came Ummatun Minal Mu'minin. And Yahud, Inna Yahud Bani Auf Ummatun Minal Mu'minin. لليهود دينهم وللمسلمين دينهم مواليهم وأنفسهم. And Holy Prophet ﷺ said the Jews, he chose one of the biggest tribe of Jew who was representing that religion of that Jew religion in the state of Medina. And then he said, along with the Muslims, form one nation. They constitute one nation. The Jews have their religion and the Muslims have their religion. And here is the model of integration. That you, as long as you are working for the peace of the country, you are working for the stability of the country, you are working for the dignity of the country, you're working for the solidarity of the country, you're working for the security, sanctity, protection of the country, then according to the integration model given by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you can enjoy your own rights and they can enjoy their own rights. You have your own religious rights, they have their own religious rights. The government is not going to interfere with your own customs, with your own norms, with your own culturalism, with your own rights. You are there to pay your own liabilities as you wish, according to your culture, according to your norms, according to your societal norms, according to your custom. Islam is not going to interfere with your local customs. They will remain as they are. But as long as the protection of this country is concerned, we all will put together under one nation to defend this nation once attacked by the enemy. That is the concept. Then he said that you are free. This is the identity perspective. As our professor, our brother was mentioning about the identity, here comes the identity. You have your identity as a Jew. Muslims have their own identity as Muslims. Christians have their own identity as Christians. And people from different tribes will have their own identity. The prime example for this identity accepted by the model of integration is that Prophet of Islam mentioned the names of the tribes in the document of the Constitution of Islam. He mentioned about the Jew of Bani Qurayza. He mentioned about and in another article, he mentioned Inna li Yahud Bani Najjar mithla ma li Yahud Bani Auf. He mentioned Banu Najjar in the Constitution. And he mentioned Banu Haris in the Constitution. He mentioned Banu Sa'ida in the Constitution. And he mentioned Banu Jusham in the Constitution. He mentioned Banu Sa'laba in the Constitution. And he declared their right equal to that of the rights of the Jews. Here is the beauty of the model of integration. The Prophet of Islam is not only talking about or mentioning the rights of between the Jews and the Muslims. He is talking about inter-religious rights as well as intra-religious rights. He is protecting the rights of the people belonging to the religion of Jew. He is talking about and safeguarding and protecting the rights of Christians. He is protecting the rights of non-Muslims. He is protecting the rights of Jews. He is safeguarding their rights within their community and say if anything or if anybody does wrong in the society of Medina, Muhammad ﷺ is responsible for that. I will fight the case for you on the day of judgment. This is what Holy Prophet ﷺ said. My dear audience, the next point, the Holy Prophet, this is another part of the integration model. He said, identity is separate. Your rights and duties and obligations are separate. Then your customs and your norms are separate. Then the liabilities are separate. But we are one nation as long as the state of Medina is protected by the external threat towards the country, towards the state of Medina. Then another article, number 15 of the Constitution of Medina stated, إن المؤمنين والمتقين على من بغى منهم أو ابتغى وسيعة ظلم أو إثم أو عدوان أو فساد بين المؤمنين وأن أيديهم عليه جميعا ولو كان ولد أحدهم. And Holy Prophet ﷺ said that God-fearing believers shall be united. And I have already mentioned that Holy Prophet ﷺ included the Yahud part of the Ummah. So in this article, they are already being included. He said God-fearing believers should be united against the person who commits any act of transgression. If anybody transgress in the society of Medina, that was the part of the integration. If anybody violates the law of the Medina, if anybody perpetrates sins in the state of Medina, if anybody commits injustice and racks the corruption and tribulation and violence amongst the people, amongst the peaceful believers, the Holy Prophet said that all will be bound to get united against that perpetrator, against that corrupt, against that trouble creator, against the criminal, and give them punishment. And then he said, even if he is the son of one of them. This is the equality of Islam. This is the concept, this is the justice of Islam. So that all the people belonging to all the tribes and their units will be united against the corruption, against the terrorism, against the brutality, against the massacre, as long as it is attacked by them, as long as the state of Medina is endangered by them. This is another beautiful point which has to be noted and quoted for the sake of integration. Now I would like to quote a few examples that how Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his guided caliphs after the demise of Rasulullah, they carried on with the model of integration and how they implemented in the society. Then Holy Prophet said in a hadith, Abdul Rahman bin Baylamani, أن رجلا من المسلمين قتل رجلا من أهل الكتاب فرفع إلى النبي فقال رسول الله أنا أحق من وفى بذمته ثم أمر به فقتل. It's authentic hadith of Rasulullah. On one occasion, a Muslim person killed another person belonging to a different religion. He was either Jew or a Christian. The case was raised to the court of Rasulullah. And Holy Prophet said, I am most responsible to fulfill the rights of the minorities in this state of Medina. Then he ordered the capital punishment for that Muslim against the non-Muslim, and he was punished. Look at the beautiful model and demonstration. The Prophet of Islam, he gave towards the minorities living in the majority country, which is ruled by the Muslim ruler. And then I'm going to give another example where the Muslims were sent as refugees, and they sought refuge in the land of Abyssinia, which was ruled by a Christian ruler. And what was the order of Prophet of Islam? To live as integrated nation in the land of Abyssinia. I will quote it later. But here, the Holy Prophet gave some example for us to understand and implement in today's Australian society, wherever we are living as a minority. The important point is, as long as, according to the juristic point of view, according to the Islamic law, according to the prophetic tradition, according to the Islamic values, as long as you're living as a minority in a Muslim majority country, in a non-Muslim country, which is ruled by a non-Muslim ruler, and you're living as a minority, as long as the religion is being practiced, as long as the pillars of your faith can be practiced, as long as you can enjoy offering your prayer, you can go for Hajj, you can have your festivities, you can enjoy your festivals, you have your own identity, you can enjoy your religion. Nobody is stopping you from observing your religious and the pillars of your faith. So nobody stops you and nobody is creating any barrier. This is declared as land of peace. This is declared as abode of peace. This is declared as the Darul Islam. This is the concept of Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ, another exemplary kindness which he showed to the delegate of Christian, came from Negus, visited Medina, came from Najashi, came from Abyssinia. And look at the beautiful demonstration of Rasulullah. This is the act to be followed. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah to be followed in our society today. The companion said that when the representatives of the Christian king, Najashi, the Negus, came to visit Rasulullah, Holy Prophet declared the day, and he gave a great dinner for their honor. A protocol was given to them. A respect and honor was given and extended towards them. And the companion said, the Holy Prophet, we could see a lot of joy and lot of happiness on the face of Rasulullah. And he was serving his guests with his own hand. He was dealing with them. He didn't let us to come and serve the guest. He was serving by himself. And then we asked, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? He said, don't you know that? When my people sought a refuge in the land of Abyssinia, so the Christian king was so generous towards them. He was so kind towards them. He was so merciful towards them. He opened the land for them. He provided them with the shelter, security, sanctity, protection, and safeguarded their religion in his land. So I am trying to reciprocate what he did with my people. And then another delegate came from Najran to meet Rasulullah ﷺ. They in fact came to have a dialogue with Rasulullah ﷺ. They actually came to have a discussion with Rasulullah ﷺ. So what happened when they came, they arrived, they were also given a protocol by Rasulullah ﷺ. Their identity was acknowledged by Islam, by Rasulullah, by the companions of Rasulullah ﷺ. When they came, the companions asked Rasulullah, they want to offer their prayer in their own way, and we don't have a church over here. But to be done, the Prophet of Islam said, don't worry about it. Open the door of the Mosque of Medina. Let them offer their prayer in their own way. And they let them spend their maximum time in the Mosque of Medina without any trouble and without any problem. So what happens in this society? If the society is accepting you as a Muslim, if this society is accepting you as a Muslim with all your norms, with all your customs, with all your culture, with all your identity, with all your specification, so why can't we become a law-abiding citizen for this state? Why can't we become the law-observing citizen for this state? Why can't we be peaceful for this state? Why can't we be peace-observing and peace-making people for this state? Then another example I would like to quote here is, even that was the order of Rasulullah ﷺ. That was the part of the model of integration. Then that was the order passed by Rasulullah ﷺ, and then it was extended by the caliphs, the guided caliphs of Islam, even after the demise of Rasulullah. That was the continuous message of Islam, which carried on and on and on from centuries to centuries. So why can't we adopt this for today's society? Even in the Islamic era, where the Islam was ruling, so Jews and Christians enjoyed their hostile free existence in Muslim land throughout the history. And it was the order of the Caliph of that time. It was the order of the Caliph of that time that they were provided with all the protection, they were provided with all the shelter, and they were safeguarded. And at that time, it was declared that non-Muslims in Islamic State would be entitled to all social benefits that Muslims were entitled. All the social benefits were provided to them. All the assistance for the elderly people was provided to them. For the ill people, non-Muslims, ill people, they were provided. And it was declared for Muslims as well as for non-Muslims. The prophets gave a charity to a Jewish household, and that practice was continued even after the demise of Rasulullah. And then Imam Yusuf said that if non-Muslim citizens of Islamic State became jobless, old, or disabled, they would be legally entitled to social benefit and income support in the Muslim state. Now, my brothers, what is happening today? All these non-Muslim countries, including the Australian and Australasian countries, the Europe, the America, the North America, from Japan to the last part of the world, to South Africa. So these countries are not hostile countries anymore towards the Muslims. They are opening their immigration for you. You are entering as a peaceful citizen, and you are giving your allegiance, your oath of allegiance to the heads of those states to remain peaceful citizens, to remain observing citizen in their countries. So why can't we be peace-observing, peace-loving citizen in their countries or in Australian country? In their society, according to the model of Rasulullah, as long as we are not stopped from observing our religion, we are happy to enjoy it, openly enjoy it. So it's our responsibility to become part and parcel of that society and feel free to support the government, to support the society, to become the part and unit of the society, to bring the peace and to stand if anything goes wrong in the society. Our responsibility to stand by the government to protect the land. Who protects you? Another example I would like to give is, one example I gave, that was the situation where the country was ruled by a Muslim ruler. Here I'm going to give another example of the Abyssinia. Here is the country which is ruled by a Christian king, a Christian ruler, and Muslims are living as minority, as we are. The Muslims sought refuge in the land of Abyssinia. So what did Holy Prophet ﷺ say? Look at a beautiful example. He said that Lamma daqa, Ibn Qasir has interpreted this verse of the Quran. Lamma daqa ala al-mustad'afina bi Makkah maqamuhum biha kharaju muhajirina ila ard al-habsha liyamanu ala dinihim hunalika. And Holy Prophet ﷺ said, لو خرجتم إلى أرض الحبشة فإن بها ملكا لا يظلم عنده أحد. And he further said, وهي أرض صدق. وهي أرض صدق. This is what Holy Prophet ﷺ said. وإن حتى يجعل الله لكم فرجا. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said to the people, to the Muslims living in Mecca, when they were tortured by the Meccan of the Arab, when their life was in trouble, their security was no more available, their sanctity was not there, they could not observe their religion, they could not practice their religion, they were not free to enjoy their rights in the land of Mecca. So Holy Prophet ﷺ ordered them to leave Mecca and take a refuge in the land of Abyssinia. And Holy Prophet ﷺ, there lived a king. And here is the land of righteousness, and the land of truth is the Abyssinia. And Holy Prophet ﷺ declared the Abyssinia land of truth and land of righteousness. And he said, here lived a king who does not oppress his people, who does not tyrannize his people. And go, join him, take a refuge from him, and become part and parcel of the nation, and become law-abiding citizen of that country. Then the companion of Rasulullah went, and they became law-abiding citizen of that state of Abyssinia. I would like to quote another beautiful incident. What happened? That they were given protection. They were given protection by the king by the negus, by the king. And they became peaceful citizens in that country. Once what happened? The rebellions, he stood against the king, the Abyssinian king. And they challenged the kingdom of the Abyssinian king, Negus. So what happened? According to the instruction of Rasulullah, the companion of Rasulullah, who were seeking refuge in the land of Abyssinia, they stood by the king. They became the protection of the king. They fought against those rebellions for the sake of the sanctity, protection of the Abyssinia, and finally eliminated them and gave their support and extended their support and help towards the king. Here, what we are required to do in this society. This is the point to be understood by us, that wherever we are enjoying the social securities, we are paying the taxes, we're enjoying the protection of this Australian society. This country has become a land of peace for us. Nobody is there to look at us with hostile eyes. So the land is protecting us, the government is protecting us, the security is being available for us. So our responsibility to remain with our identity, to continue our customs, our norms, our religious and educational norms and customs, but we have to be law-abiding citizens of this Australian society. in all the manners, with all the openness. We have to be generous citizen towards the society, law-abiding citizen for the society. This is the order of Islam. This is the model of integration. This is how Holy Prophet ﷺ practiced it, implemented it, demonstrated it in the form of the state of Medina. Now, I would say that it is our responsibility as Australians to love this land, enjoy the rights of this land, and then to take it as your responsibility to protect this land. If anything happens to this land, we all are one nation. If anything happens to this land, we are one and we are a unified nation. In the same way as the Prophet of Islam made everybody unified in the state of Medina. Now, whether you belong to any organization, you belong to any sect, you belong to any background, you belong to any ethnic values, but it's part of our responsibility as long as we protect this land and this land protects us. This is a reciprocal rights and duties which has to be performed from both sides. I hope I've expressed this, and I hope from everybody that we understand the reality of the beauty of, the reality of the importance of the model of integration. And all the societies now converted into a board of peace. They are not a board of war. They are not a board of reconciliation. They are not a board of reconciliation. They are the board of peace. They are the board of Islam. And we have to think that our generation have to pay to this country as this country has paid to us. So we have a responsibility towards this nation, towards Australian nation. And wherever we live, in any part of Europe, it is the responsibility of Islamic and Muslim citizen to become law-abiding, not to endanger or threaten the peace of the country. Those who have done this, they are the perpetrators, they are the criminals, they are the terrorists, they are the extremist people. And as stated by Holy Prophet, they are the dog of the hellfire. They have nothing to do with Islam. And all those terrorists and Kharijites of this time, they have nothing to do with Islam. They are out of ambit of Islam. There is no if and but. Unanimously ordered by Islam, by the prophetic traditions, that they are the enemy, they are the worst creature on the face of earth, who are endangering the peace of this country. And we declare openly that all those perpetrators are out of Islam, and Muslims are those people who love peace, love humanity, tranquility, and compassion.